When we first saw Dominic Mysterio in WWE, he was in the middle of a custody battle as a child between Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. Then, fast forward about 15 years, he was making his in-ring debut alongside his father, Rey Mysterio, and everyone thought that he was going to be the next Rey Mysterio, but he didn't quite live up to the hype. People were disappointed. They said they weren't sure if he was going to become anything other than Rey Mysterio's son. But then fast forward a couple of years and he turned on his father. At this point, everyone knew it was make or break for Dom. And sink or swim, and he swam. He certainly did. He has now become one of the top heels in WWE. Maybe the most hated of all heels in WWE. But that's not all, because this man has a wife, Rhea Ripley, and now Liv Morgan fighting for him. Go on, son! Let's break down last night's episode of Monday Night Raw, segment by segment, emoji by emoji. You're watching Allison Analysis. We kicked off Monday Night Raw with Gunther, the winner of King of the Ring, in the ring, and he was celebrating his victory before Damian Priest came out, and these two had a bit of a promo exchange. And I don't think we give Gunther enough credit for how much he's improved on the mic over these past 18 months. Seriously, his mic presence now is so good. His promo ability has improved so much. And not many people, if anybody, is talking about it. And of course, these American crowds, they're going to, what the foreign heel. But at the end of the day, I think he deserves credit for how much he's improved on that mic. And I think, certainly now he is ready to become a world champion when he does get that championship opportunity at SummerSlam. But then out came Drew McIntyre, who of course has a world championship opportunity first. I really like this segment because it established multiple challenges for Damian Priest. And when there's multiple people trying to go for that world championship, it makes it feel more important. And this certainly did that. But the issue, and unfortunately it is a bit of a big issue, all three of these guys are heels, right? Of course, in Scotland, Drew McIntyre is going to be cheered. But for the build of this feud, you've got three heels. Like, it's a difficult one. It really, really is. Because I want to see, both of these matches. But the crowd is not going to know who to cheer for. But one thing which I did really like was Braun Strowman versus JD McDonough. Because I expected this to very simply be a complete and utter squash match. But it was not. JD McDonough, he got some offense in. This was not a squash. There was some offense. JD McDonough looked smart, but he also looked like he, was a bit of a coward against the odds and all that. They did this pretty much perfectly. Braun Strowman came away with the win and looked strong. So this actually gets a subtle round of applause for me, purely because any other time I would have imagined this was going to be a squash. But hey, they are building up JD McDonough, and I'm happy about that. Up next, we had Dragunov versus Ricochet in a King of the Ring rematch. And Dragunov, well, he did not want this match. He said, Ricochet, I'll have the match with you, but once you're fully healed. But Ricochet did not want to wait. Well, these two, they were putting on a really, really fun match. Gets a thumbs up from me, but unfortunately it was ruined with an interruption from Braun Breaker. He was suspended, he was not meant to be there, but he broke into the building and he tackled Dragunov. I'm really excited to see where this feud goes, and I'm loving the build of Braun Breaker. It gets a subtle round of applause from me. It really seems like they're trying to make Braun Breaker the next Brock Lesnar, and I'm not mad about that at all, because the guy, he does have a similar presence to Brock Lesnar, and the interactions with Pierce, where Pierce was trying to shout at him and he was just ignoring Pierce, it kind of did remind me of, some interactions Brock Lesnar has had with authority figures over the years. And yeah, Braun Breaker, he is the next big thing. I've been saying it since the first time I laid eyes on him on NXT TV, and he is proving it now. We then had a bit of an ice cream truck segment with Miz and R-Truth. It was all a bit confusing because that actually didn't lead to anything. But what followed it was quite interesting because Karrion Kross confronted the New Day and said, Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston has had his time in the spotlight, but your time is running out. If you want to, be in that spotlight, you need to make a move now, and that move's going to have to come at the expense of Kofi Kingston. They're trying to get in the head of Xavier Woods, and so far it's not working. But hey, as this feud goes on, maybe it will. I'm really glad they're doing something with Karrion Kross on the main roster, and this gets a subtle round of applause from me. Authors of Pain then pretty much squashed the Creed brothers. I'm glad Authors of Pain are, getting a bit of a build, so that's going to get a thumbs up. But what's going to get a thumbs down is it was at the expense of the Creed brothers. The Creed brothers are young and they're so talented. They could be, top tag team for WWE for the next decade plus. And yes, that does mean they have time. And I think that's, WWE's attitude towards them. But I think if you establish them now, then hey, you've got more time to, really profit off them. So I think they're kind of messing up with the Creeds. Sheamus then returned once again. He came out to the ring and he was cutting a promo on Ludwig Kaiser, who then came on the Titantron. And it seems like they're trying to really establish Ludwig as a singles competitor. And that's quite interesting to me. But I'm not mad about it at all. I'm actually really hyped for their match next week. And it did its job and it built it well. It's going to get a thumbs up off me. But something which is also going to get a thumbs up off me is Lyra Valkyria versus Kairi Sane. This match was, it wasn't anything too special, but it was fun for the time that it lasted. And what really impressed me was, well, the finish. Because the finish it protected Kairi Sane, I should say, while also making Lyra look strong as well. Because I was really worried Kairi was just going to, lose it was a clean victory, but you know what I mean. Blatantly clean in the ring. Finisher, bang, 1, 2, 3. But a bit of a roll-up finish. It protected Kairi. It protected damage control. Because I'm not going to lie, I was getting a little worried about them. But I was even less worried about them after the next segment, because Dakota Kai and, of course, Kairi Sane returned backstage, and Io Sky was fuming. She was trashing up the locker room. She stormed out, and this can take my money. Like I said, since WrestleMania, Damage Control have looked a little weak, but Io Sky was like, hang on a second, we're not going to keep that going. We're meant to look strong, and Io Sky is not happy about the losses that they are taking. Brilliant segment, and I'm excited to see where this goes. We then saw Rey Mysterio versus Carlito in a decent match. Nothing special, but it did its job. It was fairly fun. A few sloppy moments, but Finn Balor tried to help Carlito. He failed. Of course, Carlito and Judgment Day are kind of in a bit of a... Well, Carlito's trying to get into Judgment Day and it's not really working right now. But after the match, in a similar way to what I said about Damage Control, where, they've looked a bit weak lately, and Io Sky's finally, taking a stand, well, Damian Priest took a stand and took out everybody, all the LWO after the match, and that gets a subtle round of applause from me, because Damian Priest is, really saying, hey, with a Judgment Day, we're not meant to look weak. And I really, really like that, and I like the fact he's taking an initiative as well. Up next, the Meat Division was back on Monday Night Raw with Bronson Reed versus Otis, but unfortunately the match, I didn't really care for it. It was fine, but it wasn't anything too special, and the reason for that was this was very, very simply just, for the story. Otis kept wanting to do the Caterpillar or whatever it's called, and Chad Gable was not having it. But while the match was mid, the segment after was money. In fact, it can take my money because the Alpha Academy meeting was brilliant. You could just feel the intensity around the arena when Chad Gable was going to whip Otis and Sami Zayn making the save. That was brilliant. And yeah, Chad Gable ended up standing tall at the end, but it looks like Alpha Academy is going to be breaking up very, very soon. But will that be before or after Chad Gable wins the Intercontinental Championship? I was really unsure at the start when they turned Chad Gable heel if it was the right decision, because he was so over as a babyface. But he is proving now that, hey, this was 1000% the right move. Chad Gable is just... he's the best he's ever been right now in WWE. He fits this heel role so well, and he's playing it perfectly. It really has become one of the best storylines in WWE. And I said earlier that Dominic Mysterio is the most hated heel right now. Well, Chad Gable, he certainly does come close. But in the main event, we had Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch, World Women's Championship in a steel cage. You can't get much better than that, can you? This was really, really fun. And Dom came out and he tried to help Becky. He opened the door for her. But rather interestingly, Balor and JD ran out and were like, what are you doing, Dom? What are you doing? When at that moment, he really was helping Becky. Ooh, conspiracy. I think so. I think Damian Priest is losing control of the Judgment Day and Liv Morgan has the reins. But anyway, in the end, Becky Lynch did lose and Liv Morgan won once again because of Dominic Mysterio, because he left the door open. Dom was fuming. He was not happy about it. He was clearly upset. But Liv Morgan, well, she grabbed him and she snogged him. Dirty Dominic Mysterio, you dirty player. I mean, this was great, wasn't it? That being the closing shot for Monday Night Raw. It was excellent. I mean, this will get a subtle round of applause from me. Dominic Mysterio is the Pete Davidson of professional wrestling, and Liv Morgan might be the Sabrina Carpenter of WWE with how she's breaking up families. I'm only joking, Sabrina Carpenter. I'm not buying into all that tabloid nonsense. But, nonsense, pun intended. But, I mean, honestly, this was such a fun ending to Monday Night Raw. And overall, this was just a really, really fun episode of Monday Night Raw. But it didn't have anything other than the kiss that was that major. But it advanced all the storylines well. So, overall, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I'm not going to give it much higher than that because, like, listen, ultimately, you probably could miss this episode of Raw. And I said that about SmackDown, and people were absolutely fuming at me on Instagram for saying it. But I mean, the truth is, you probably could miss this. But if you watched it, it really helped advance storylines, even in a small way, but a significant way long term. And I enjoyed that. It did its job. It did what it needed to do. But hey, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Allison Analysis. And I hope you enjoyed last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. I'll be back on Thursday to talk a little bit of AEW Dynamite. So until then, see you. Please like, subscribe, comment, all of that stuff. I'm trying to, and if you have any ideas for Allison Analysis, please leave them in the comments below as well. I will see you guys next time. Peace!